you will rarely find a company going with one cloud provider. Most companies, at least from my interactions with some of these organizations, they're adopting what's called a multi-cloud approach. So if Google is to come in and cannibalize that market share from, say, AWS or Microsoft within the various market segments that they dominate, then they definitely need to offer something different. Which is the most secure environment? Is it the cloud or is it the on-prem?
Yes.
Right. But what I can tell you is no environment is 100% safe.
Welcome to another episode of ITWeb TV. Today, we are joined by Derrick Chikanga, who is Research Manager at IDC. Welcome to ITWeb TV, Derrick.
Pleasure to be part of your program today.
Derrick, we want to talk about cloud computing. I understand most of South African companies are going into cloud computing, be it to accelerate their digital transformation journeys. From an IDC point of view, what are the major expectations you have for the South African cloud computing market?
Thank you very much, Edmire. Maybe perhaps let me start by taking a step back for us to see where we've come from over the past couple of years to where we are now today. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, that's February 2020, right, cloud was being viewed as a nice to have and not a must have per se, or something that's critical to the operations of a business, right? But when at the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic in February 2020, right, suddenly businesses had to adapt to the new normal, right? Which meant that overnight businesses had to find ways of changing their business models to suit the new normal at the time, right? So suddenly cloud became a must-have, or a necessity for business continuity, right? So since then, most organizations have maintained that hybrid working environment, right, whereby some employees still work remotely, of course, with resorting to working from the office occasionally, right? But the fact that we still have employees who are working remotely, that has now required businesses to store their work files in a centralized location, right? So that's been one of the key drivers to cloud usage or to the continued demand of cloud services in South Africa. So going forward, right, we expect that to continue, right? We expect more organizations to continue consuming cloud services in South Africa, right? And also the advent of upcoming technologies like AI, right? This has necessitated businesses to outsource some of these platforms or some of these tools, right, to develop their own internal solutions, so that they can remain competitive and also develop AI technologies that will make them more competitive and more efficient in their business operations. So we should expect continued demand for cloud services in the new year, as well as the oncoming on board of other sectors of the economy, like the government sector. Government is one of the most challenged institution or government departments, the most challenged institutions in South Africa, because they lack the relevant IT skills, right, in-house IT skills to effectively manage their IT infrastructure. And also government has got quite a significant amount of legacy infrastructure, right, which needs to migrate to or which needs to be changed or transformed to the latest available technologies. So we should see a continued trend, whereby more and more organizations, starting to shift, to the cloud as they realize, the cost benefits of moving your work files to the cloud environment as compared to operating your own infrastructure on-prem.
Thanks, Derrick. Over the years, I don't know if you have done that already, but IDC used to give us like some figures of maybe IT spend, maybe in South Africa, or cloud spend. Have you done that for 2024?
Yeah. Look, as IDC, every year or towards the end of the year, we undertake various surveys covering different areas of the IT service market, right? So just as an example, we've got we do services that cover the 5G, 5G area, IT services as a whole, and then also the cloud space. And at the end of last year, we did undertake a study that also looked at the cloud space in South Africa, as well as other jurisdictions or other regions across Africa. And some of the results, this is purely based on our survey, right? Only 6% of our respondents, which we are 101 respondents from the survey, highlighted that they still spend their IT expenditure on-prem infrastructure, right? 60% highlighted that they say they spend on a hybrid cloud approach. Hybrid meaning that you have both, your workflows residing in the public cloud as well as in a private cloud environment, right? So 60% based on our survey results is a significant figure, right? So it goes to show that so many people are now aware of the advantages of using cloud services in one form or another, right? And this is only expected to continue in the immediate future. So yes, we can safely say that there is a significant amount of spending by organizations on cloud services, and this is also expected to continue looking ahead in the immediate future.
Thanks, Derrick. Also, maybe you mentioned that you also surveyed other jurisdictions apart from South Africa. Maybe just to look at the African continent.
Yeah.
Would you say how can you compare maybe the South African cloud market's maturity with other African countries, or maybe if we compare them with maybe your countries from Europe or the Americas and so forth? How do we compare?
Look, if we look at sub-Saharan Africa as a region, South Africa is by far far ahead of the maturity curve, and there are reasons for that, right? I think top of the list is that South Africa has experienced this what they used to call a land grab in the development of data centers, right? So I think since going back 5 years ago, we have seen an extensive investment in data center infrastructure from the likes of TerraCo and the likes of Liquid Intelligent Technologies and a whole lot of other the data center providers, right? So this has encouraged cloud providers to set up the local presence within some of these what we call co-location facilities, right? Which in its own case, it has an advantage in that it reduces latency if you're closer to your end user or to the end users of these cloud services. And secondly, it also addresses two issues, right? One issue, which is regards to data residency, and then the second issue, which is regards to data sovereignty, right? Data residency, right? What that means is that more and more organizations, more and more governments, are requiring that their customer data or their citizens' data resides in the same location or in the same data centers that are located in the same jurisdiction as the customers, right? Why that's the case? It's also because it leads us to the data sovereignty part, right? Data sovereignty means that data is governed in the jurisdiction where it is stored, right? So if it's a South African company, right? If you move your data center, your work files into a cloud data center, and then those work files are transferred into a data center or cloud environment that's outside South Africa, then that data starts being governed by legislation within that jurisdiction, which creates a few complications in that if there's a data breach, right, any remedy have to be addressed by a legislation within that jurisdiction, right? However, if the data resides here in South Africa, as a customer, I've got the comfort of knowing that whatever happens to the data, if there's a data breach, then whatever legislation applies, which applies to that, to data, or be it the POPI Act, then I'm protected by local legislation. So it only makes sense that, most of these hyperscalers, they come and then they start establishing their presence within the local market. So that's what we have seen. That you've seen that your Microsoft Azure, your AWS, BCX, and Alibaba announced, a partnership whereby, Alibaba will be providing their cloud facilities or cloud services through BCX facilities. So all that is to bring services closer to the customer on the ground. So South Africa, it has been lucky in that we've seen all this development in terms of having the right infrastructure in place, all these data center facilities, which has encouraged the cloud providers, your AWS, your Microsoft Azure, to now establish a local presence. And that has given South Africa, a head start compared to all the other regions, particularly in Africa. So South Africa, it's way ahead of the curve in sub-Saharan Africa, and it also remains highly competitive, even if you compare to some of the regions in the Middle East area.
Awesome. You mentioned the different hyperscalers, Microsoft Azure, AWS, and Alibaba,
Yes.
Which is coming via BCX, meaning that, I think South African enterprises, organizations now have a variety of choices to choose from when they want to choose like a public cloud service provider. What advice would you give to an organization which is looking for a cloud provider between these three? Are there any similarities or differences amongst these international cloud service providers?
Okay, look, obviously, the first point of call is to address the organizational requirements before selecting any cloud provider, because a cloud provider has they've got different. Each cloud provider, has its own strength and its own weaknesses, right? Obviously, it's important to go for cloud providers that are reputable, right, and that have the capabilities, to meet your expectations, right? Security is a key element of that. Making sure that your data is safe within those cloud environments, right? In terms of that being the case, after you assess your individual circumstances as a company, right? That will drive, or that will inform which cloud provider to select. In terms of like what I've highlighted already, in terms of similarities, if you look at Microsoft, you look at AWS, these are major hyperscalers, right? And they've got the financial capabilities or the financial muscle to invest extensively in their data center, in their cloud infrastructure, cloud capabilities, and also to continuously improve on their product offering, right? So that's one thing I can say, that if you're going to say what's similar between Microsoft and AWS, I'll tell you that these are global providers of cloud, and they've got the capabilities, the in-house capabilities to continuously develop products and services to meet market demand. But in terms of differences, right, like I've already said, each individual provider has a strength in a specific area. Just as an example, if you look at AWS by far, they are strong in what we call infrastructure as a service, right? They lead the market by far from a global perspective. And then you've got Microsoft. They also lead the market when you look at software as a service, right? Platform as a service, AWS. They also lead the market, but in that sector, Microsoft, they also it's equally competitive, and then you also have your Google Cloud, right? So now that's why I'm saying it depends on you as an individual company in terms of what are your needs. Is that infrastructure as a service? Then you go with AWS. Software as a service, perhaps Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, and then platform as a service. Again, whether it's going to be AWS or Microsoft, it's really up to the organization. But what's important to also note is that you will rarely find a company going with one cloud provider. Most companies at least from my interactions with some of these organizations, they're adopting what's called a multi-cloud approach, right? Whereby you don't just go with one provider, right? You select, or you use different cloud providers for your different needs, right? So if it's infrastructure as a service, then you maybe select AWS. Then if it's software as a service, then you go with Microsoft. If it's platform as a service, then you go with whoever you feel offers, the requirements, the business requirements according to your own assessment.
Cool stuff. Okay, thanks a lot, Derrick. Now just looking at BCX, which is bringing Alibaba Cloud.
Yes.
They said like their biggest selling points is that they are charging their cloud services in South African rands versus other hyperscalers who are charging like in hard currency like US dollars and so forth. Do you think it's an advantage for them, or should organizations, see that as one of the biggest selling points to consider them?
Look, in terms of from a currency point of view, I don't think that will really have a significant impact or a competitive advantage to BCX and Alibaba. When you look at cloud, all the available current service providers in the market, your AWS and Microsoft Azure, they've got diverse charging costing structures. Probably the most common probably being the pay as you go, but you've got they've got the ability to offer various or you as an organization you've got the luxury to select from different pricing arrangements from some of those cloud providers. I think at the end of the day, it will come down to what do you as a service provider have to offer to the market, right? Because remember, South Africa has got a whole host of cloud providers. You've got your Oracle, AWS, like we've mentioned, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, right? So it's a highly competitive market. So pricing alone won't give you that competitive edge, but there's so many things to consider from a service provision point of view, and more importantly, the products that you have to offer to the market. I think that will be the most critical in terms of which service provider the customers opt to go with.
Speaking of Google Cloud, I'm not sure when exactly they are going to launch like a local data center, but what could Google bring that we don't already have, like to the South African market? Should they launch like a data center like what AWS and Microsoft have already done?
Look, if you look at a company, even like AWS, the portfolio of its products within its cloud offering, it's extensive, right? Same as AWS, right? So what Google just need to do is they'll need to provide something different to what the market already is already getting, right? Like I've already said, there's a reason why AWS is got a significant portion of the South African infrastructure as a service market, because they're offering what the market needs. And there's also a reason why Microsoft has a significant portion of the software as a service segment, because they're offering what the market requires. So if Google is to come in and cannibalize that market share from say AWS or Microsoft within the various market segments that they dominate, then they definitely need to offer something different to what the customers are already used to. So it's going to boil down to a product innovation, right? With the emergence of AI, probably offering products that will make organizations more competitive. At the end of the day, that will have a meaningful impact, or that will help organizations realize tangible benefits from some of these cloud services. So all I can say is that Google Cloud, they'll need to look at the current market, like in any other market that you look at. Look at who's there, what they're offering, and then be creative, be innovative, and try to offer something different to what's currently available in the market, and then hopefully they can be able to increase their market share going forward.
Great stuff. Previously, when not so long ago, I think a few years back, I think one of the biggest worries why organizations were reluctant to go the cloud way was security. Most businesses would say they are afraid that they can get hacked or something along those lines. Are you still seeing similar fears now, or security is no longer concerned in as far as cloud is concerned?
Look, when I attend events, most of the time, this is one of the questions that we get asked regularly. Which is the most secure environment? Is it the cloud, or is it the on-prem?
Yeah.
Right. But what I can tell you is no environment is 100% safe. That's the start. Right. So the onus is on both the service provider and the organizations themselves to make sure that their IT infrastructure or their data is safe and secure. Right. From a cloud provider point of view, right, of course, there are various mitigating factors that they can implement. Of course, cyber security threat will always be there. It's a full-time job for cyber criminals, right? It's something that they're always looking for areas to attack. For some of these key organizations, whether it's a bank, whether it's an insurance company, ransomware suddenly it's just become a very lucrative business, right? So the threat will always be there. That's a given. But the only thing that companies, both cloud providers and enterprises or public sector institutions, the only thing that they can do is try to mitigate, right? Service providers, invest in the right skills, right? IT security skills, cyber security skills, those are the most challenging and the most in short supply, not just in South Africa, but across the globe, right? So it's an area where, the likes of Microsoft, AWS, they need to continuously invest, right? Make sure they've got the right skills, the right capabilities to make sure that, their infrastructure is well protected, right?
Mm.
And then also, implement technologies, AI, right? Be proactive in protecting your IT infrastructure, right? Automated response to security breaches. Those are some of the measures that cloud providers can implement to make sure that they stay ahead of the cyber criminals. Also, simulating, potential attacks. That's another another initiative that cloud providers can implement. To enable them to anticipate some of these potential cyber security breaches. So from a organizational enterprise government institution point of view, right? Again, they need to invest in IT security personnel, right?
Mm.
But I think most importantly, they need to create a culture of security, of being able to see, or to be alert to some of those, potential threats, like suspicious emails that employees might get, and also, employees need to be aware that they should not just be, visiting some of these malicious websites, because those will compromise or they'll put the company at risk from a cyber breach point of view, right? So it's also about creating a culture, right, where people are aware and are alert of some of the things they need to do to make sure that the organization is well protected from potential cyber attacks. And then also, potential measures. We could also look at, implementing a zero trust, right, approach. Right, zero trust means in an organization, you can't trust anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the complicated or most of the most sophisticated threats actually emanate from within the organization itself, from employees who know the internal systems of an organization, and those are the most difficult to detect, right? And maybe lastly, you can also put stringent data control and data privacy measures within an organization, and making sure that certain individuals have access to specific company information. So unfortunately, the threat of cyber attacks is here to stay. It has become a lucrative business. Ransomware companies are paying so much money to cyber criminals once they experience a cyber attack or a security breach, right? So organizations, they can only do so much to mitigate such threats, and the responsibility lies both within the hands of cloud providers as well as enterprises in making sure that their employees are led in their way of some of the potential risks that exist out there.
Cool. Then also looking at the data center footprint, the local data center footprint here, a lot of companies, like you mentioned earlier, that there's a land grab to build data centers like Terraco. I'm sure last year they announced that they are expanding their data center in Cape Town, plus another one, I think, in Durban as well. And recently they even expanded one that is at Esando. The companies like Dimension Data are also building data centers. Africa Data Centers, I think they also recently opened one. Yeah, so there's a lot of activity that is going on in terms of building of these data centers. What do you think is influencing these kind of investments?
Good question. Like I've said, I think earlier on, first of all, it's demand for cloud services, cloud providers like your AWS, your Microsoft, and Alibaba. Alibaba will be using BCX data center facilities to provide its cloud services to the local market, right? So it's that demand from cloud providers, because there's already infrastructure in place. If you've got the highest rated data center, which is a tier 4, tier 4 is the most secure, right? Tier 1, then you go up, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 being the most secure. That has the specs, to handle, maybe information for a banking institution, right? Because it's considered to be the most secure, data center. So you've got this demand for from cloud providers, right? But at the same time, there's also demand for co-location, right? Co-location, whereby you move your server into a ready-made data center. It's got everything. You've got the IT load, which is the power to power up the servers. You've got all the cooling system within the data center. It's highly secure. Tier 4 being the most secure. I'm using that just as an example, right? So if you've got all that, all that infrastructure already in place, it's convenient for a cloud provider to just move in and then set up their servers. It's convenient for internet service providers who are also huge consumers of co-location space to just move in and then start using that data center space. Telecoms operators, they are also a key consumer of co-location space. It also frees them from building their own space to put their servers, and start operating if they can just use ready available space. So it's this demand from data center cloud providers, demand from internet service providers, and also demand from telcos. And not just that, we also have banks starting to move some of their servers to those data center facilities. So it's that that demand from all angles or from all sectors, that's fueling this demand for data center space, and we should expect that to continue. That's why we are seeing this continued investment in co-location or data center facilities. It's not just in South Africa; it's the same case in East Africa, Kenya as an example, and even if you look at West Africa, Nigeria, it's the same story that demand for data center facilities continues to increase.
Cool stuff. Maybe lastly, Derrick, Thank you so much. We mentioned earlier on when we started this discussion about how government is lagging behind in terms of adopting cloud services. What do you think is the biggest reason behind this? And do you have any maybe suggestions of what government can actually do to ensure that, they also, advance by adopting such technologies like your cloud?
Yes, I think from a government point of view, what I see, this is just my opinion, it's probably the bureaucracies within government. Right, we know that we've got CETA, which has its own challenges as an institution. So it's I think the starting point will be first of all to look at the internal processes, whether it's procurement or how a institution like CETA, how it manages the different, or how it services the different government institutions. Right, that would be the key focus, and see how CETA as an institution can improve its own internal processes. Right, because the sooner that happens, the more it will be able to reach out to all the government institutions and be able to provide its services in a more efficient manner. Right, that's the first one. Second one is making sure that enough investment is going into government IT infrastructure. Right. Often we see that there are delays in procurement of some of this infrastructure within most of these government institutions. Right, and it takes time. Right, and that's got a negative impact on government operations. Right, government still sits with so much legacy infrastructure, and that's not even compatible with some of the latest technologies. Right, so government needs to commit enough resources to changing or to upgrading or transforming our own IT infrastructure. Right, but also it's also the implementation. Right, commitment alone is not good enough, but it's the implementation stage that we see. It takes ages for things to start moving within the government department. So the more things are treated as urgent, the more we might start seeing things moving from a digital transformation within the government institutions. And then thirdly, of course, investment in IT skills. Right? Because I think government is one of the most impacted areas or sectors from an IT skills point of view. Right? Most IT personnel, probably the key priority would be the private sector, which puts the government at a significant disadvantage in terms of attracting the right skills, be it cloud engineers, be it data analytics professionals, or be it cybersecurity professionals. Right, you see that government it lags a lot. That's why it creates that challenge or that hurdle in the sense that even if the digital transformation happens within the government, they don't have the right skills within internally to operate some of those latest technologies. So three things, I think. First of all, improve the internal processes, let's say from a CETA point of view, or procurement within some of those government institutions, to make sure that decisions that are made faster, especially decisions that relate to IT equipment or IT systems and technologies. Right. Then secondly, right, implementation, like what we said. When implementation, we mean that when we say things have to be done, they are done. Not just on paper that things will be done. Right. When things are supposed to be done, they're done when they're supposed to be done. And then thirdly, investing in the right skills. Right, because it's one point there's no point actually in having all those new technologies within government institutions, but not having the right skills to fully utilize those technologies. So I think if those three things are put in place or implemented, then we might start to see changes, internal changes in terms of how things or how IT it's how IT is, IT systems are run within government institutions.
Awesome. Obviously, our conversation can't be complete, Derrick, without you having to look into the IDC crystal ball to tell us like your expectations for 2024. Looking into your crystal ball, what do you think will be the biggest technologies that will have the biggest impact within South Africa this year?
Okay. Yes. I mean, definitely we are going to see a continuous, uptake of cloud. Right. Like I've said, as organizations continue to evolve, digitally transform, they're going to need the right skills and the right tools to enable that transformation. And internally, they might not have those tools, so they have to resort to the cloud, to be able to enable to enact such digital transformation within the organizations. But I think secondly, it's just the sudden boom in AI, right? Before last year, before the sudden surprise impact of ChatGPT, right? AI probably it was going to take maybe a bit more time to have a significant impact on the local environment. But now, because of what we're starting to see, the sudden interest that we're starting to see, organizations now looking at AI as a real game changer within their organizations, within their operations, right? AI will be one of the key areas to be looking out, to be on the lookout for, in terms of how organizations are going to adapt to utilizing AI, to improving operational efficiencies, making employees more efficient, implementing AI in circumstances or in situations where, some of these manual tasks were being done by individuals, and then you can just, integrate AI into such processes, and then, so that employees can actually start focusing on more productive, aspects of their business. And then, of course, secondly, AI having that, enabling quick decision making, where maybe previously you had to sit down, take days to analyze the situation before you make a decision as executive management within an organization. Now, I just use AI, as a quick way of, looking at a situation and then making a quick decision in terms of, how to proceed, thereafter from there. So, AI for me, it's going to, a huge impact on South Africa, right? And, like what you said, some of those tools, they have to come from the cloud. So there is going to be that, intertwined or interlinkage between cloud demand and AI, simply because, some of those organizations don't have the tools readily available to them. Then they have to resort to the cloud environment to access those tools to develop AI solutions that will have a significant impact on their internal processes, making them more competitive, making them more efficient, and then being able to make quick decisions and stay ahead of the market.
Interesting. Thanks a lot, Derrick. I've noted this down. Hope we'll have another chat in December to see what will be true or false from your crystal ball.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you, Derrick, coming to ITWeb TV for this episode. That was Derrick Chikanga, Research Manager, IDC IT Services. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, ITWeb TV. Thank you so much.